Ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling to order the special meeting of the City Council of the City of Sebastian from July 7th, 2020. Would you please stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let me have a roll call, please.
Mayor Dodd.
Here.
Vice Mayor Motti. Councilmember Hill is with us via Zoom technology. If you'll just say here.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilliams.
Here.
And Councilmember Paris.
She on the phone.
We're reaching out to her right now.
Mr. Mayor, can we recess until, we gave 15 minutes the other day for another council member?
She's here right now. I see her on the screen.
Okay, all right, there you go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, just kind of introduce for a second here. The city attorney has sent to council an email indicating that he intends to, based on Florida Statute 28611, he intends to discuss an executive session pertaining to the active legal action that we're in on the Graves annexation at our meeting tomorrow night under his matters. And since that is an active legal action and it should not be discussed in public, I move that we table item number 5.A this evening.
I'll second that, Mayor Dodd.
Thank you. All right, no discussion on a tabling motion, so can we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Motti. No. Councilmember Gilliams.
No.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Councilmember Paris.
Your mic's not on. Councilmember Paris.
My apologies, no.
And Mayor Dodd.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now I want to caution everybody up here at the council. I'm going to let the city attorney do that again on his own. This is not an item we can discuss. We can listen to the public, but we cannot in any way discuss with the public what they comment on.
I want to make a motion to not appeal the lawsuit with the Audubon Society. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, you can proceed, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Do you want public comment?
Yeah, let's have public comment. We might as well. Yeah, it's being hornswoggled. We haven't discussed it yet. Let's have some public comment. Anyone from the public wants to speak, line up for me, please. I'm sure you've arranged a few. Sir, your name?
My name is Rene Boisbert. I'm Brook Edge Terrace. Thank you for this opportunity. Last year, when we had all this going on with the annexation, it was unbeknownst to the citizens that any of this was going on and found out through back channels. With the exposure to this annexation comes in and all the undertakings that were going on, we got involved and we want to stop the annexation, obviously. Now, here we go again because it was ruled in the courts that this needs to be stopped. I say it needs to be stopped. Do not spend our taxpayer dollars with attorney fees. Go forward. Go back, digress, and reevaluate to what you're doing with this city. We like it small. We want to keep it that way. We don't need to look for extra dollars to fill our tax and all that. It's crazy. We like it. We came here. We want to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person.
John Cristino, Southeast Sebastian. Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. We could have expected this to come, last week's decision. I would ask you to consider not appealing the ruling. To go forward with the 164 and do what we said we were going to do last year. Let's involve the public. Let's involve the St. John's Water Management District and the other various agencies. Let's show that we can do this by example. We've got another 1,000 acres next door. We can't deny it. We do this right, we don't have the uprising when the next one comes along. That's my piece. I hope you consider it.
Thank you. Next person.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Motti, Mayor Ed Dodd, Councilmember Gillian. This annexation was overwhelmingly rejected by the citizens of Sebastian last year. Sebastian Daily did a poll to their subscribers. Overwhelmingly, the community rejected it then, they'll reject it now. I am not against any sort of growth that is, that makes sense, sustainable, good for the environment, okay? The way this plan is designed, okay, it's a terrible deal for the city. It's a terrible deal for the environment. It's a terrible deal for the residents of Sebastian. Please reconsider. Do not appeal it. Go back to the table with the Graves brothers, okay? Come up with something that everybody will be happy with, okay? Meet with the environmentalists, okay? And have some workshops. The way the annexation is right now is disastrous for everybody. Please, let it go. Send them back to the table with something better for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next person.
Oh, I'm sorry. John Riley, Sebastian resident since 2010. And by the way, this is the greatest city on the East Coast.
Thank
Okay?
you.
I've lived everywhere on the East Coast from Dade County up to here. This is the best. Let's keep it that way. Okay.
Yes, good evening. Dr. Bob Betta, temporarily residing in Fellsmere while my new house is being built. The plan for the Graves Brothers property failed to serve the wishes and desires of Sebastian residents very dramatically. One, did not retain the charm and character of Sebastian. Two, did not consider and protect our natural resources. And three, the public was left out of the process. Thank you.
Michelle Morris. It would be nice if we stopped growing 36 years ago when I moved here. So what do? We shut the door after each person moves here, then we won't allow any more. 3/4 of the people in this audience wouldn't be here if we closed the door 36 years ago when I moved here. What are we gonna do? We just gonna not allow anybody to move in, not allow any growth, not look for any industry, not be sustainable, or are we gonna continue where we have the services, we have to have extra services, and we're gonna keep jacking our taxes up? I mean, we already have lawsuits pending for things that don't even involve growth, but now we're gonna ask our taxpayers to continue to pay more and more instead of, for the city growing, at least controlling that growth. I've lived here 36 years. The city has done an amazing job at how they've annexed and how they've grown our community. When I moved here, there was like 8,000 people. Where are we at now today? I still hear every day people say Sebastian is a small, beautiful town. Yes, it is. You compare us. We have 25-ish thousand people. Vero Beach has 16. Yet when you go to Vero Beach, it appears much larger than Sebastian. So I think we've done a great job at controlling all the growth that we have over the last 30-something years. Let's just be smart about this. Let's look at it. Let's decide what's going to be best. And I beg to differ. The majority of the citizens are not against growth. They're just against us becoming a Miami or a Palm Beach County. Thank you.
Vera Render, 852 Mulberry Street, Sebastian, Florida. I too have lived here over 30 years. And I will tell you that if we had stopped the growth back then, we wouldn't be in the pickle we're in today. However, we also wouldn't have the tax dollars. We wouldn't have the beautiful city and the amenities that we have to offer. If we stop this annexation, and those people are still going to build there, they're still going to drive our roads, they're still going to shop in our grocery stores, they're still going to come to our churches, they're still going to be using our services, and we are going to be dealing with that without a single penny coming in from that property. And I don't know where y'all went to school, but I'm going to tell you, the county is not going to share that tax dollar with us to provide the services they're using. It is not going to happen. We can't be that naive. Do not give up an opportunity to control something that will bring us tax dollars to support our beautiful city. Thank you.
Donna Halloran, 925 Greenbrier Avenue. It is time for the city to save taxpayer money and agree to bring all parties together, including the Graves brothers, the county, and the concerned groups, and start to discuss a future land use plan. We want to protect the St. Sebastian River. We want to protect groundwater. We want a design that includes a lot fewer houses. We want to create large open spaces to protect the slough and create the water farm on a permanent basis. In effect, include many of the recommendations from the 6 county, regional, and state agencies that commented on the annexation and the corresponding land use amendment last October. This makes a lot more sense than the plan the council approved and submitted last summer, ignoring the input by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the concerns from citizens who spoke during the public hearings. This is an opportunity for the City of Sebastian, Graves Brother, the county, and the concerned groups to address issues of developmental impacts, protection of our precious natural environment, and the efficient delivery of services to this rural area of the county. It is not the environment. This is our environment. We have a second chance at doing or making this right. Let's put on our big kid pants and open this looming sore thumb to all the residents of Sebastian and other organizations that are willing to work with you. Let us communicate. Do we understand each other? Do we respect each other? Do we even trust each other? It is time to be open, transparent, and honest. Let's do our homework. Let's do our homework together. Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope that you heard my concerns.
Kathy Klein, Sebastian. This all began in August 2019 with the annexation of a large parcel of land to be incorporated into the city of Sebastian. So many residents were concerned and asked the prior council to reconsider. Some of the questions are, please slow down, and to reconsider the impact of the infrastructure. More research was needed, and these are just some of the comments and concerns. But it was a slam dunk, and in 2019, the council went ahead and every member voted for the annexation to go through. The people of Sebastian were angry at the council and went to the polls in November 2019. Many did not vote for the 3 incumbents up for re-election, mainly because they were in favor of the annexation and voted for it. So now we had 3 new people elected and 2 are up for re-election in November. How about the next election, we spend as much effort and time to get the vote out as we spent on the recall? So here we are, approximately a year later, a 3-judge panel has halted the annexation. How much did this cost the city of Sebastian? I know the council has a right to appeal this decision, but will the council do the right thing by starting over and reconsidering what their constituents were saying in 2019? Thank you.
I'm Louise Cottenberg, and I live in the city of Sebastian and have for 25 years. And I'm here to encourage you to go ahead with the appeal. The rejection was based on a very slim technicality. One might call it a Scribner's error. I listen to people, I have listened to people all night long for weeks and weeks, and way back in last August, indicating that somehow or other this came through the back door. Somehow or other we were going to spoil our environment, yes, our environment with this. Those people were reacting to half-truths and lies, direct lies that were told to them. This particular annexation does not involve anything that is odious to the city. I've served on just about every committee that exists in this city, and it has been my experience over those 25 years, as was the case here, that nobody attends the well-advertised meetings. All these people here today are saying this came through the back door. There were numerous meetings. They did not start in August of 2019. Nobody showed up at any of the meetings. Nobody asked a question. We ask at every meeting for public input. Everything is done in the sunshine, except for the most recent issue. No comments from any of the public. I also heard it said that this came in August when everybody's gone. I've been here 25 years. Everybody's not gone in August. This used to be a vacationer city, but it is now a city of mostly year-round residents. So that's all a bunch of hooey. I believe that we need to go ahead with this. I believe that, yes, we could certainly do better in being, perhaps explaining things more readily when it reaches council. But come on, folks, attend the meetings, bring up your concerns, let them be known so they can be answered ahead of time. This is a horrible waste of time and energy, and don't blame the council for it. Blame yourselves. Thank you.
Hi, Andrea Ring, Corey Lane, Sebastian. 30 years ago, I was looking to move somewhere to Florida. My parents lived here, my sisters live here, and my sister lived here in Sebastian. So, you know, I got moved here 15 years ago, but 30 years ago I was looking. So I'm glad you didn't close down. Thank you. I still think, though, we need to do this smartly. I would like to implore you to use anything that is voted for by the EPA. These are for houses that can be maintained with less sewer, and it could also be funded by the Clean Water Act, or I think the Indian River Lagoon might even be able to help us. But we need to start at scratch, at ground level here, and decide that we want to do this thing very, for the environment. This needs to be done environmentally correct. And we need to get services from these other people who know how to do this, who have done this. This is not new. This is stuff that is across the country. My sister, who lives in Illinois, has this. And she's lived in her house for 20 years. And she got this 20 years ago. We need to do better. I am, I guess, for the annexation. I don't know. My feeling is that we will do a better job than the county. I think the county will put apartments up there and put in real close living. And I think we need to do a better job and keep our small feel. Also, remember, until 2005, Sebastian was we had a cannery down there until 2005 when the hurricane, so we were a manufacturing community until then. And we then got the land to keep it open so we wouldn't build anything there. And we have a beautiful view. and we keep the small town look and feel, but we need to do better environmentally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Sharon Herman, Sebastian. I came into this late because I think most of you all know I moved here about a year ago, but my mother's lived here for over 20 years. And my husband was very ill for the first 7 months that we lived here. So I was catching bits and pieces. I didn't do my due diligence. And my vote reflected that when we had the elections in November, and I apologize for that. I bought into the fact that, oh, if we don't annex, they can't build. I've since learned, of course, that's not true. They're going to build regardless, whether we have input or not. What I'd like to know is how many people actually understand that. Because I've still talked to many, many people that say if we don't do this annexation, they can't build there. And the way I understand it is if we don't do that annexation, we don't get the tax money from it. And we have no input for this annexation, but they're still going to build, okay? The area is going to grow. You can't stop it. Anywhere in the country, like Andrea said, you can't stop it. So my questions, I have two questions, I guess, three. How long is it going to be before the Graves brothers are going to hold off and not build, waiting for us to decide, are we going to appeal the annexation, are we not? Are we going to try and bring them back to the table? Are they under any obligation to come back to the table? I haven't heard any of that information. If the annexation, you know, say doesn't go through, can they just say, okay, we'll just work with the county? Do we have the opportunity to start over? Don't know. And how much is this discussion going to cost us in legal fees and lawsuits and whatever, since we're discussing a topic that we're not supposed to be discussing in the first place? Because again, everything is going to start affecting our taxes. And these lawsuits are going to start piling up. And now we're turning away new tax money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charles Stadelman. I'm a resident of Sebastian. And the lady just came before me, said everything I was going to say. How much I got left to say. Everybody that has come up so far has said this place is a beautiful city, best place they've ever lived. And it is because of the people that are on the dais right now. The city managers also participate in it, the new city attorney, all the council members. This place is a beautiful place. I happen to travel a lot with my with the type of work I do. I travel between Cocoa, Titusville, West Palm, Broward, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, extensively. And this is a beautiful place. I commute because this is a beautiful place. I've raised my whole family here because, again, it's a beautiful place. I'd like to congratulate the whole city council for getting everybody involved. The lady before me also said that during this process, no one came to any of the board meetings. Well, I can't comment on that. And they're correct. The board meetings were virtually empty. Granted, we didn't have Zoom at the time, but there was a lot of public input on this. I can't comment on the annexation because you're still in litigation with it. But I can tell everybody that between here and Palm Bay, they put in an exit on I-95 that right now goes nowhere. There's no roads to this exit. Somebody is getting ready to build a giant city just to the north of us on the county line. If anybody's ever been over to Lake Nona, back in the 70s when I was a young person, there wasn't a Lake Nona. There was no one there. If you go there now, there's tens of thousands of people there. The only reason they got lucky is because one guy was in control of it all. Just to the south of us, 5,000 homes are already basically permitted to be constructed. If you don't take control of your area, buttress your fortress, and keep it the way it is by taking control of it, regardless of what it is, you are going to end up like Melbourne in 192, which is tough. Port St. Lucie, but you have to take control of it just like you have already. You've made this place a very beautiful place, and I congratulate all of you. It's been hard. I've been here since the early 70s. Sebastian only exists because a large developer came in, General Development Corp., came in the late 60s and dug everything up, put in the canals, put in all the lots, put in all the roads. If you go up to Palm Bay, you'll see that General Development was also there. There's a whole section of Palm Bay that's larger than Sebastian. It's not even developed yet. There's no houses there, but the roads are there, the infrastructure's there. There's going to be tens of thousands of people moving here for no other reason other than all of you on this dais, every single one of you have made it such a beautiful place. I have been coming to these board meetings for quite a while now. And again, prior to what we're seeing now, hardly anybody came. You held many board meetings about this, and the input is what the input was, and the process went through. The only thing I would recommend is, because these issues are so diverse, there's no way one single person could possibly know everything from financing and funding, land clearing, environmental issues, of course, and of course, they need to have a tax base come out of it, that you use all your resources. Start with your lowest boards, take it to them, get their input. If you bring it in front of the board, just make sure that they know that this is going forward. We don't want to kill it just to kill it. But if you got to kill it, then it needs to die. But if you bring it in front of the boards, the next board can make a better decision. And then it can come in front of the city council with guns blazing, and you guys know what's going on. And beyond that, I can definitely tell you, to the north, tens of thousands of homes are going in. To the south, 5,000 of them are already
30
permitted.
seconds, Charles.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, my name's Tracy Cole. I would like to encourage us to go and move ahead with this annexation so that we can have control. I believe our city is much different than it was back in August. We're much more involved now. I have to take the blame also for not getting information when it was available to me, and I can assure you that's not going to happen anymore. We are an involved group. We would like to have workshops. We would like to have knowledge. We would like to work with our city in this and not believe the lies that were passed around to get onto the city council. If we can work with the city to get all the plans out that's acceptable to everybody, I think that would be a wonderful thing to do. So I encourage you to just move forward with the annexation.
Thank you.
Ben Hawker, City of Sebastian. Can you tell me what the actual verdict was in the court case we're discussing? That we should be able to spell out, correct?
I can tell you that. The court ruled that because we left 5 acres partial of land off of a map, that they ruled in favor of the plaintiffs.
All right. So does this void the annexation that we passed?
No, nothing's legally done until we respond to that.
Why would we want to respond? We're going to take and spend more money to another court? I hear people up here saying it's going to bring taxes and taxes and tax money. Well, it's a giant homeowners association. That area will put in parks, will put in recreation areas, and you and I aren't going to be able to go there unless we have a friend who lives there. We're going to be paying and maintaining the roads. What's going on here? 1,000 acres? What's that, 5,000 homes or something they're talking? I mean, you're talking expansion. We just let a guy come in to crush concrete and recycle cars. Meanwhile, the county has a commercial area right on our border. And I don't think we should be spending more monies on it to appeal it. Let it lay. Readjust what was already done if we can't get out of it, and come up with something that people can live with. But expanding to the south of 510, you know, why don't we annex Fellsmere? You know, nice big area. Maybe we'd have control of it. Here you're dealing with a homeowners association. I don't think you should spend another dime on this operation. Let them come back with another plan to adjust the annexation and either yay or nay it. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Bass, and I represent Grace Brothers Company. I think a lot of what I'm hearing, people understand a little bit better. This is about control. There is no plan with this annexation. There's been a picture that was distributed of what it could look like when we make a land use change. The annexation is about control. This land will it's going to develop. You've got major roads going right through the middle of the property. So it's going to develop. The question is Sebastian going to control it? Is the Indian River County going to control it? Or is Fellsmere going to control it? I think the council made the right decision. They wanted Sebastian to control it. I think that a lot of misconceptions, a lot of misunderstandings about the process. An annexation is not asking for services. It's not asking to build houses. It's not asking to do anything other than to be annexed into your municipality. So then that municipality would control what happens there. And in Sebastian, for example, they have a PD, which is a planned development. We're going to keep, Grace Brothers' plan was to keep this land in agriculture until there's a demand for a zoning change. So with the annexation, we asked for a future land use. That's why we had to provide a map. It wasn't a plan. It's just a map showing what the zonings that were in place under a PD would allow to go there. That's not approving it. That all comes when there's a time for the application for a zoning change. And that's when a lot of the things that have been mentioned about concerns, that's when that comes to the table. But that's way beyond this conversation. The annexation is the first step, and it is voluntary. I can pull out any time. And if I pull out, I'm not sure I'm coming back to the table. This was a very expensive process for us. We want to be part of Sebastian, but we also want to be part of somebody that wants us. Our company used to own all the land that encompasses Sebastian. It wouldn't have been here if we wouldn't have logged it back in the 20s and the 30s. So every piece of land used to be something else. We would like this to be part of Sebastian and be part of the community that everyone, I think I'm hearing, wants. I'm a third generation Vero Beach resident, Indian River County resident. I'm a fourth generation Floridian. I'm not going anywhere. We're not trying to do this under the guise of secrecy or anything. I think we heard from someone that said there were many meetings that weren't attended. This wasn't just pulled in August when there was no one around. That was not the intent, and that's not what happened. I would encourage you to appeal. I think it's a very good plan to have this under Sebastian's control. I believe and I'm not an attorney, but it looks like a Scrivener's error. There wasn't a physical error. There is connectivity. There is nothing, shouldn't be nothing to prevent this from happening if the appeal is handled correctly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Grace Reed, R-E-E-D. I have to ask why we would ask somebody to come back to us with a different plan when they can very easily go somewhere else and look, just as this gentleman has said. I've been here for about a year. I lived in Sebastian from 80 to 88, and I came back here to retire. To me, it still has the same small feel. The city that I came from had a multi-use, actually had 2 multi-use areas built, really did nothing to the atmosphere of the city. Very nice growth in it. It had single family, it had multifamily. They put the YMCA there. A very nice place. Like this gentleman said, and like others have said, somebody's going to build on it, and I think that Sebastian should be able to say what it is and when it is. One thing that I did read in the contract that is available online. There's going to be sewer. There's going to be no septic tanks. Can anybody guarantee that with who else takes it over? You look at Tractor Supply. That's not Sebastian. That's Fellsmere. You're going to be looking at Fellsmere right on your edge because they're annexing as much as they can annex. And I think it's a great idea for the city of Sebastian to be able to control that growth and be able to say what it is used for out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Nicholas Jaskowski, Sebastian. Fact, this property is going to be developed. The question is, city of Sebastian, going to have meaningful input in how it's going to be developed? My next point, I demand an apology from the council member that referred to me as a thug at the last meeting.
Sir?
Apparently, he doesn't have the nerve.
Thank you.
How are you doing? Christopher Nunn, N-U-N-N. Hi, Mr. Mayor. My question tonight is, if we move forward with an annexation, can the campaign of disinformation stop? If we can control the campaign of disinformation, misinformation, however you'd like to do it, the same reason why 3 council members are no longer sitting up on here and new ones are, is lies. If we can control the lies and have real serious discussion without those lies, then we can probably move forward without a problem. This annexation is a positive thing. There's so many people that I've talked to that still believe if we don't annex, the Graves brothers are just not gonna build there. They just decided they'll make it orange groves again or something. I don't know what they think they're gonna do with it. But the fact is people still don't understand and they still believe lies upon lies upon lies, the same ones that put 3 council members up on this dais. So what I would hope is that we can move forward with some honesty and integrity. Well, we'll have that soon when we have a cleaner dais. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else from the room that would like to speak? Is there anyone on Zoom?
I have 4 hands raised.
All right.
Andrea?
Name, please. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, Council. This is Andrea Coy, 501 Palm Avenue, thug extraordinaire, zooming in from home. Mr. Mayor, we've heard a lot of very good commentary about reasons why you should appeal this decision and continue with the annexation. Thank you, Mr. Bass, for elaborating and throwing some light to the general public on what's to come, because there's a lot more to this process. And we're not done. Just by annexing the land, that means we get to do more and more negotiations with Mr. Bass and the Graves brothers as to how the property is developed. I strongly believe that we need to continue to have control over this property. And a Scribner's error is certainly no reason to just up and throw the whole system away. This council needs to go ahead, appeal the decision, and move forward with the annexation. We don't want to lose this. We have wanted this property forever. My question here is, one, I am just totally disgusted that we are having a meeting that was called and announced to the population, the public, yesterday on such a serious issue because one individual couldn't wait till Wednesday for the new meeting. This is crazy. This is absolutely nuts. And I don't understand how we can make a motion to act on an issue that council is not allowed to discuss. I think it would be nice if the attorney could answer that for the public, because council is not allowed to discuss this. We are not allowed to ask questions and get proper answers and get the truth from council and get the truth from staff because you're not allowed to discuss it. So how can you have a motion right now on the table to do anything that you can't discuss? I don't get it. And with that said, Doug will sign off.
Thank you.
Leslie?
This is Dr. Leslie Wayman of Sebastian. I would like to make it known I object to this meeting being called where there is nothing on the agenda to look at to know what is going to be discussed. It was called as an emergency meeting, and I know every councilman has the right to call one. So I understand the letter of the law. I'm questioning the spirit in which this meeting was called. How can you vote, again, like Andrea said, on anything when there's nothing for us to look at, to properly put input on? I think it would have been better to wait until we'd heard from the lawyer at tomorrow's meeting. And then maybe some proper input could be held. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Item.
Thank you.
It's Kira Item. I live at 556 Rolling Hill Drive. And I just want to say, I find it, with all the misinformation that was passed around. In fact, I was handed one on my front porch one day before the election happened. I happen to know quite a bit about annexation of land, and every city does it. And the time and effort that's been put into it, it needs to go forward. And a lot of people are talking about the benefits, what the city can get for tax money and stuff like that. But how about the citizens of Sebastian benefiting from having people who move here that can provide for local small businesses to thrive, as well as students thriving, new teachers that could thrive. This is something that our whole community needs and will benefit from. And you need to go forward. And the ridiculousness of constantly bringing up stuff that has happened in the past needs to stop, and we need to move forward as a city, period. This is a waste of our time and our tax dollars with someone grandstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lacey Lou?
Hey, how you doing? This is actually Joe Scazzari. I don't know how the name Lacey Lou came in there. That's my dog's name. But in any event, I've noticed a couple of people come up, and particularly Michelle Morris, who really wants this to go through so that she can get the vote of the police department.
Would you keep your comments to the topic and quit the personal attacks, please?
No, it's not a personal attack.
It is.
It is to the topic in that, of course, she wants more, or many of these people want more tax dollars to go to the police department. The police department takes in almost half of our budget. I don't know if the people are aware of that.
Thank you, sir.
KP?
And there was a lot of meetings to it, but maybe not necessarily.
Can you state your name again, please?
Kate Preston.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think one of the questions is with the annexation and what's been happening is that not a lot of people were paying attention at the time. So when it happened, it became an issue. I think it is something good that Sebastian can control. I think that we should not be discussing any of this since it's still in litigation, and I don't agree with the motion to proceed with the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nobody else.
All right, Mr. City Attorney, I have a question. If this motion passes and we no longer need an executive session and we no longer need to move forward with this, correctly? Am I correct?
I would like to state something for the record.
I'd like to hear it.
But you are correct. If this motion does pass, I don't see why we'll need an executive session.
Okay. The reason I'm bringing that up is that I'm gonna go against your advice. And I'm going to open this up for comment, because if this passes, quite frankly, the council's made a decision that they should be discussing. And if we can't do that correctly in an executive session because of this motion, then we need to have a discussion.
I don't think we disagree with that. This is something that should occur during an executive session. And this is why I sent out the July 6th email, which was yesterday, sent out to all the council members. I'm not sure if all of them had the opportunity to review it, but I would like an opportunity to explain what I tried to say before you take this vote.
Okay. Let me make sure I'm clear when I say this. If you have something to say, say it now, because in a minute I'm going to start opening this up for discussion.
Okay. Yesterday I sent an email to council. I want to make it a part of the record so that we know what my position was. I'm just going to read pretty much what I said. And I caution all council members and make them fully aware that this matter is still confidential and is not subject to the public at this time. And I want to emphasize at this time. It will ultimately become public once the litigation is over. But we're still in a period of what we, the council, wants to do. All these inputs are amazing, and it's great, and it's what we want to hear from the citizens. And this is something that all the council members should take into account, but during a closed executive session meeting. I do have on camera today on web Mr. Dan Abbott. We are prepared to meet with council during the closed executive session where all this should be considered. And that's pretty much what at this point, what I want to say. I don't think at this point it's appropriate to make this decision before the council. Again, I emphasize, like I said yesterday, it's something that should be discussed at this point during a closed executive session.
Mayor Dodd.
1 second, Councilmember Hill. Councilmember, Vice Mayor Malta, you were.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Your mic's not on, I don't think.
If we go forth with this executive session, will Mr. Bass be present? Because I think he has a lot of input into this, and it would be necessary for him to be there.
It's a fair question, Mr. Vice Mayor, but the answer is, at this point, is no. The closed executive session by law only allows all 5 council members, the attorney, in this case, outside counsel, as well as a court reporter. It will be transcribed to the T. Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Can't forget the city manager. And it will be transcribed to the T. And once the litigation is done, whatever you decide during this closed session and meeting, if it will be finalized, then all this becomes public. Because all this gets sent to the clerk, and she will preserve it until the litigation is over. So the answer to your question would be no. Mr. Graves.
Mr. Bass.
Mr. Bass will not be, it's against the law. It's only, the purpose of it is for council to have an opportunity to meet with the attorneys, to have an attorney-client meeting to decide what council wants to do going forward, what council wants to do. Subsequently, if we just, I mean, at this point, that's what the executive session is for. But if we subsequently want to have a meeting and have a presentation, that's up to you. But that's not the purpose of the executive session. Right now, we have a decision made by a court. The council needs to give us direction, which I was going to ask you tomorrow to have the succession so you can give us that guidance, what you want to do.
And just so everybody knows, the executive session can only be requested by the city attorney. The statute actually specifically states that the city attorney has to request that executive session. It can't be requested by a council member. But here's the point. This motion has changed that.
No, Mayor Dodd.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I put it on the agenda. I'd like to speak.
I understand. I'm not ready to talk to you yet.
Mayor Dodd.
Councilmember Hill, go ahead.
Well, thank you. I would suggest to you this, that our city attorney has been very clear in this. Legally, we have to discuss this with our attorney as a body. Everything that we do in that executive session will become public. And then certainly, as we go forward, everything's going to be public. I'm very concerned about opening this up for discussion, and I am not discussing the Graves Brothers annexation or the legal case at all, because our attorney said it's not appropriate, and I also believe it's not appropriate. I totally disagree with any discussion on it. I said any single council member can make their decision, and if they decide to go against the city attorney, that's upon them. But the fact of the matter is, we should not be discussing this. This definitely puts us in potential future litigation, and I, for one, will not discuss any of it, even though I will gladly discuss it with anyone from the public who wishes to discuss it with me. Not at this time. We have we should have this in executive session, and if we, after executive session, this body, the five of us can sit in that executive session meeting and say, we don't want to appeal. That's the whole reason we have it. So if you're just so afraid to do your job and you're afraid of the looks of it, apparently, then that's on you. But the fact of the matter is, the five of us can sit and discuss, and at that point, 3 members can say we will not appeal this, or 3 members can say we will, and that's when it's appropriate, and that's when I will have this discussion.
All right, that's, but I tried to do that. That's the reason I attempted to table this item until after the meeting tomorrow when we scheduled the executive session. However, I have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak?
No, you cannot. Not yet. You've quite frankly refused to be a member of this council in this motion that you just put forward. I'm not going to recognize you until I'm ready.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
I've got one question for the attorney, if I may.
Yes.
In your legal opinion, are we subject to more litigation if we go forth with this tonight?
In my opinion, I think the vote should be no, and you should have this discussion at a closed executive session. There you should make your decision at this session. That's my opinion.
Thank you. I would make a recommendation that we...
Mr. Mayor, I have a right to speak as well before anything else.
You do when I recognize you.
And there'll be
I think you should actually start acting like a member of a council instead of a rogue guy going around. You're starting... I'm actually relatively tired of you deciding that you would rather not do things legally and do them your way. You're already in enough trouble.
I have a right to explain myself.
Well, you can explain yourself in a second. The Vice Mayor has the floor. Mr. Vice Mayor, did you say something?
I'm finished right now, but let Mr. Gilliam say what he has to say, and then I may have something else to say in close.
Well, I have a choice, though. Quite frankly, my choice is I open this up for debate, and then when I open it up, I'm not going to stop debating. I have things to say.
That's the problem. And Mayor Dodd, and I don't mean to interrupt, Mayor Dodd. I do not mean to interrupt you, sir, but that's the whole problem. If you open this up for debate, now we are not debating the annexation or the Graves or that litigation at this point. We're just debating whether or not it should be open up for debate by council. I strongly disagree that it should. I will, regardless of your decision on this, sir, take the advice of the attorney and not have discussions this evening.
I understand, Councilmember Hill, but I have a motion on the floor, and if that motion passes, then that directs the city attorney to not appeal that verdict. And I'm not going to allow that to happen without input. Quite frankly, it's that simple. I'm not going to allow that to happen without input.
Mr. Mayor, I think we're walking down a very slippery path right now.
The motion that was made to direct the city not to appeal not only went on a slippery slope, it created a confounded, it greased it. It was totally improper. It should never have been made. So I agree with you 100%. We're not only on a slippery slope here, we're in a position where, without any debate among the 5 of us, we're going to be directing the city attorney to not appeal this case. That is ludicrous.
I have a right to be recognized, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, let Mr. Gilliam talk.
Mr. Gilliam, go ahead and talk.
Thank you. I mean, I put it on the agenda, and I put it on there for a reason. First and foremost, I don't need to debate the issue. I was elected by the environmentalists of this community, along with Charles and Pam, to listen to due process that was not done properly. So, with that being said, we already lost the first round, $35,000 in legal fees to an outside firm. We're going to have to pay Audubon Society's legal fees. And guess what? You appeal this, you're going to lose again. Listen, I'm not against annexation. I'm welcome Mr. Bass to come back and negotiate with this community, not under the circumstances of a hurricane, but to meet with the organizations of Audubon, the Friends of the Sebastian River, the community. Give everybody due process. Don't try to slip this through.
Point of order, Mayor Dodd.
Excuse me.
Yes, your point of order.
Mayor Dodd, at this point, we're discussing whether or not this should be open to discussion, whether or not we
No,
should
we're
be
not.
discussing.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Hill. What is the motion on the floor is that we direct the city attorney to not appeal. That's the motion on the floor.
I'm aware of that, but we have also got advice from our attorney as to whether or not we should be having this discussion. Each individual city council member has gotten that advice from our attorney, and it is upon them to decide whether or not they want to follow this advice or send us down a wormhole that's going to get us even more litigation.
Mr. Mayor, let me finish my points.
Do you remember calling me the night that we passed the annexation and thanking me for electing you to the council?
I want to just make my points, and then we can call the vote. I think personally, it's a ploy to drag this out through the courts until they get new people up here, and then annexation will go through without due process. That's my feeling. I think that if this goes back to an appeal, it'll be 6 months to a year before the Fort DCA brings back another opinion. It's not going to be in our favor, because I'm familiar with the procedure, whether it's mandatory or permissive, and the attorney knows exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to that. The bottom line here is this is a delay tactic. Let's just call it what it is. Let's not appeal it. Let's invite Mr. Bass back to the table. Let's negotiate this with him and the county, and let's do it correctly. And the only way to do that is to kill this now and save the taxpayers a ton of money. And it's going to be a lot of money because...
Are you done?
No, I'm not done yet. I'm not done.
Okay, I just want you to answer my question. Do you remember calling me the night of the vote and thanking me for electing you to the city council?
No, sir.
You don't remember that?
No, sir.
Would you like me to play a recording of that phone call?
So again...
You did do that. You know that, Damien.
This is a tactic, and we can kill this right now while we're here.
This man has been lying about this annexation since last August,
and
he continues to lie tonight.
And that was not to stop the annexation, and we can do that with a yes vote. We can do that with a yes vote right now. All right? It's that simple. We don't have to talk about private deals upstairs.
I'm going to call the vote, and we're going to see what happens. Would you call the roll, please?
She's got a right to speak.
Would you call the roll, please?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
I think Councilwoman Parrish wants to be recognized.
All right. Go ahead and speak.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know what you're going to say, right along with him.
Please, Mr. Mayor, can we be adults here?
I wish we could.
I understand the public. My opinion on this annexation is irrelevant. I want what the people want. And I think the problem is that they feel a breach of trust because at our August 28th meeting and the presentation by the engineer, the Mr. Shulsky, I believe it was, I think that every city needs growth, and I'm for impact fees. And I like the idea of us controlling this area, but no one trusts that evidence. So until there's a future land use plan, a comprehensive plan that the entire public can see and understand, like I said, there's a breach of trust.
All right, and I gracefully disagree with what you're saying about the breach of trust. I know there is a breach of trust, but it's not due to the annexation.
So, Mr. Mayor, yes, Mr. Mayor,
no,
yes vote.
I'm going to call the vote.
A yes vote means no, we're not going through with annexation, the appeal, correct? That's what a yes vote is.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, just clarify it, Mr. Mayor. Is it an affirmative vote?
I'm going to, did you say something, Mr. City Attorney?
No, I just agree with Councilmember Gilliam. It's just to clarify what the vote is.
I'll do that.
And and make sure that.
It's just
Here we go with the confusion.
This just irks me to no end that the gentleman called me the night that we passed this annexation and thanked me for electing him to the city council. He won't admit that, but he did. He used the annexation. He used misinformation about the annexation. He used lies about the annexation in order to get something he couldn't get in 14 years. He got elected, and he hasn't acted like an adult since he got elected. A yes vote means that we direct the city attorney to not appeal the annexation. A no vote means that we do not direct him not to appeal it, and then he can choose tomorrow if he wants to ask for an executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
one more question, if I may. If we go into executive session, we're going to be discussing the same thing, correct?
Yes.
So we are either going to have a 3-2 vote in executive session, or we're going to have a 3-2 vote now.
Whatever people vote, I don't really care. It's once we
I
call
may
the
not
roll,
be
we'll know.
there, Charles. I may not be there, okay? The governor may remove us.
right.
So we got a chance now to do this.
Actually, Councilmember Gilliams, it would be a blessing.
Okay, Charles?
Would you please?
Just so you
yes.
understand that.
Call the roll.
I understand that, Mr.
Call the roll.
Gilliam. I understand that.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Gilliams?
Yes.
Councilmember Hill?
Nope.
Councilmember Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
No.
Vice Mayor Motti?
No.
All right. That item ends our agenda for this evening.
We will go
are
to
now
executive session,
adjourned.
correct? Mr. Mayor?
Yes, yes.
We will be going to executive session, correct?
If he chooses to bring it to us tomorrow night.
No, not if I choose. It's going to be, if I, I'll
There
talk to
will
you
be,
now,
Damien, but
Excuse
without
me,
you,
Mr. Mayor.
lies.
Okay, am I answering the question, Mr. Mayor? Are we done? Is it adjourned?
We're done. I've gaveled the meeting closed. You two.
Love affair is when you're down is up, when you're up is down, but love stays around. And when you know you're right, but you got to make a little sacrifice, you make it for love. Whoa, yeah. I never thought about the day would come when she would leave without goodbye. Yes, sir. She wrote a line or two upon the wall. Said, I'm leaving you, though I love you too. I can't stay with you. And to this very day, I can never say a discouraging word, because I love you. Whoa, yes, sir.